jig2 to my event 1 and my event 2. Okay, so that jig2 contains another message like message from jig2, and that particular message we are going to trigger. Okay, so we have to listen to my event with all these two listeners, jig1 and jig2, so that we have to how to listen this. Here you can see event emitter dot on which event, my event, and that particular listener, that is jig1 and jig2, that is event emitter dot on my event jig1 and event emitter dot on my event comma jig2. Now here we are going to remove the listener like event emitter dot off. Inside the bracket give that event name and the listener name here. Then we are going to trigger that my event like event emitter dot emit, inside the bracket event name and the message. Then we are going to trigger the error. Okay, trigger the error like event emitter dot emit, then event name is error here, event name is error, and that is new error, that is attention, we are going to give another message. Okay, so after executing this, what will be produced output here? First it will print the listener is added to remove listener. Here the listener is added to remove the listener. Then it will print the listener is added to my event. Here the listener is added to my event. We have registered with the two events my event. Then it will print that listener is removed from my event because we have removed this listener here. Okay, it will print that the listener is removed from my event. Then it will print that message from jig1 error occurred because we have removed that first event and the first listener jig1. So that's why it's not going to print that message from jig1. It will print that message from jig2, that is event occurred. Then it will print the error message, that is attention there was an error. Okay, so in this way we have seen that event emitter class. Now we will see asynchronous and await functions. So these two functions we are going to see. Okay, here asynchronous makes a function return a promise. It makes a function return a promise, and await makes a function wait for a promise. These two asynchronous and await functions, that asynchronous function returns a promise and await function wait for a promise. First we will see that asynchronous function. So here that asynchronous function start with asynchronous keyword. Here see, it can be placed before a function like this here. Before writing the function like function f, before that function, that asynchronous keyword is placed. Okay, so like here asynchronous function f, then the body of that function. Here the word asynchronous before a function name, it means that a function always return a promise. If you are going to place asynchronous keyword before a function name, it always return a promise. Then the other values are wrapped in a resolve promise automatically. Okay, this is the way we can uh, write a synchronous function, that asynchronous keyword is placed before the function name, before that function. Then here you can see, for example, like a function that returns a resolve promise with the result of 1. Here we are going to write one function that will return 1. Here asynchronous function, asynchronous, then function f, that body of that function is return 1, then close the body, then call that function f dot, then alert. So this function will return 1. Here we could explicitly return a promise like here you can see asynchronous function f, then body contains return promise dot resolve, resolve 1, then close that body, and like f call that function f dot, then alert. So this will print like 1. Okay, so here asynchronous ensure that the function returns a promise and wraps non-promises in it. Then here it is simple enough, but it is not only that, like there is another keyword await. await that works only inside the asynchronous function, and it is, yeah, this asynchronous function, sorry, that asynchronous function returns the promise, and that non-promises are wraps into it. Then there is another keyword is there, await. Await keyword is there that works only inside that asynchronous function. So we will see await keyword here. The syntax for that await is like it works only inside asynchronous functions. So syntax for this await is let value is equals to await promise. Here the keyword await makes JavaScript wait until that promise settles and returns its result. It will wait until that promise settles and returns its result. That await is only works inside asynchronous functions. So here is one example with the promise that resolves in 1 second. See asynchronous function f let promise is equals to new promise. Okay, we have seen promises in last session. Here it contains two parameters, that is resolve and reject. Here let promise is equals to new promise inside the bracket resolve comma reject. It contains one method set timeout, that is it contains resolve done comma 1000. This is the timer we are going to set, that is 1 second, and close this promise, and let result is equals to await promise. It will wait until that promise resolves. It will wait until that promise resolves and alert that result is done. Yeah, alert result, that result is done, and at last call this function f. If we are going to call this after executing this, whenever it will call that function f, that f function f contains one promise with that timeout set timeout method, that is resolve done, and with the timer 1000, that is 1 second, and it will print that we are going to use uh, await here, like let result is equals to await promise. It will wait until that promise resolves, and at last we are going to alert that result. Okay, so it will give output as a done that after 1 second. Okay, that is it will resolve that promise in 1 second, after 1 second. So that await function, here the function execution pauses at the line. Here you can see that function promises pauses that execution at this line and resumes the promises, and resumes when that promise settles, with results becoming its result. So the code that shows done in 1 second, here you can see this code shows done after 1 second, because we have set the time, that is 1 second here 1000. Okay, it will resolve this after, it will print this done after 1 second. Okay, so this is all about asynchronous and await keywords. Okay, so we have seen event emitter class and asynchronous and await keywords. That remember that await keywords only works inside that asynchronous function. Then we have seen that event emitter class and events several events, how to import the events, how to initialize that event emitter, then how to register with that listener, how to remove the listener, how to trigger that event in event emitter class. So that's it for today's session. We will stop here. Thank you.